here. And then in part two, we're going to continue talking about relationships and how they can, they are our biggest source of being stuck and causing pain and sometimes keeping us stuck in a very toxic situation. But they can also be our biggest source of healing. And in between those two stages is a healing stage where you're by yourself and you're lonely and it fucking sucks and you don't have anyone. And that's just like where I am. That's where Jake is. And you know what? Some days it sucks, but most days it's really good. So that's where we are. So we're going to talk about that. So yeah, since you mentioned the relationship part, do you want to talk about just what you were used to in relationships, how that looked for you, and what you had to uncover in yourself and in your own patterns that kept you stuck in those situations. And even after your first dark night of the soul, kept you kind of still going back
Yeah.
to that same dynamic until you finally learned, because it takes a few times to
Well,
learn,
it's
right?
familiar. It's
Right.
all I've known,
You will
So,
choose a
of course,
familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So tell us
it's
about that.
just what you're used to. I would rather, at one point, I would rather just relive the same bullshit just because I was used to it. It's like, so I seek out toxic women, not that I don't place blame on that, because I was toxic too.
Yeah.
It was just the whole dynamics of the relationship were not, they weren't built on a foundation of authenticity and, just being able to be vulnerable. They were built on surface level attraction and, just the not reality,
Like
just not,
transactional and
yeah.
and there's not a lot of depth, right?
Yeah, I would, whenever you have to sacrifice a part of you or keep a part of you hidden, I mean that it's never going to work out because you're always holding that part and you can never be 100%, vulnerable and be honest about who you are. You're never going to feel right in a relationship, and I really think that's a flaw with society that, and actually this is part of this is my thesis in my English class right now
Okay.
is actually on healthy relationship communication.
Wow.
So, so actually it was kind of funny that that was one of the options. I was
That's
like,
awesome. And of course you
well,
picked it. Like,
perfect.
this is great. This is something great to
Yeah,
write about.
yeah, it was like I talk about this all the time, so, why wouldn't I pick something that I already know?
Bonus. That's easy. I think not
But
only is it that you have to be like vulnerable, like because true intimacy is having someone see the good, the bad, and the ugly and still be there. That's true intimacy. And that's when you can truly feel loved. So when you hide parts of yourself and you wear a mask in relationships, not only is it lacking depth, lacking true intimacy, but you end up never feeling chosen and never feeling loved because you know that the other person doesn't truly know who you are. So
yeah,
there's
they know
always
a
that
mask.
distance, there's always a wall, there's always a gap because you're wearing a mask. And deep down inside, you know you're wearing a mask. And deep down inside, you know that even if they love you, they're only in love with the parts of you that they can see and they don't know all of you. So you know that you're not being truly loved. And that just makes you feel alone while in a relationship and isolated while in a relationship. So it's like, what's the fucking point?
Well, yeah, and it brings up, you start second guessing them because you're hiding something about yourself. So then you get into thought patterns where it's like, well, I wonder what they're hiding, or, it just breeds just toxic relationships. I mean, and I think this goes back to something that needs to be taught earlier on, through adolescence and into teenage years is just emotional maturity in a way that, we teach kids anxious avoidant attachment, just attachment in general, just to, so they can see the dynamics of that. Not only that, then when we, as human beings, we want to force that connection so much. So, it's a lot of times it's a friend's friend or whatever, and we think they're attractive. So what we base our needs in relationships on is totally out of whack to begin with. It needs to be it needs to be based off of mutual depth and just, like you said, being able to see each other, seeing all your imperfections, and then being able to sit with each other and not even have to say a word, just understand, just know. It's not about all
Yes.
this flashy, bullshit that and that's society. That's the noise of society, shoving that stuff down our throats and TV and, what we learn and watch and, from our parents or, from relationships that we're surrounded on. And if you look, a lot of relationships really aren't based on a good foundation. And that's why a lot of them fail, especially now.
1,000%. And you mentioned something important, attraction, and that's what I work with a lot of my clients around. And like attraction and compatibility are very different. And when we are wounded, so when we don't have boundaries, when we don't love ourselves, we don't have self respect, we're still carrying the wounds from our childhood, maybe feeling not worthy. What we end up being attracted to, like you said, this is the pattern that I knew, is someone that makes us feel the way that we felt when we were growing up. So if you had an emotionally unavailable mother, let's just say that for example, you're going to be attracted to women that remind you of your mother subconsciously and make you feel like she made you feel. And that would be having to earn her love, having to really fight and perform and people please to earn her love. So you end up being attracted to women that bring that feeling out of you because that feeling is all you know with your first relationship with a female and it's familiar. And what movies and music and everything else has done, it's romanticized this feeling in your body that, the butterflies and the attraction. That's actually a fucking trauma response, people.
Yeah.
Like start to pay attention. That is activating something in your body that makes you feel unsafe, where you're like, oh, I have to chase this person and get their approval. That is the opposite of a soulmate. A soulmate, when you meet them, makes you feel at home and you are at peace for the first time in your life. There is no crazy butterflies. Your body and your nervous system is not out of control. So when your body's having all these reactions, that is not good. That
Red
is a
flag.
trauma response. And I hate that people look for that. And you hear women like they go with the bad boy instead of like the nice guy because the bad boy's activating that nervous system response and he makes them feel insecure and they're chasing. And now their insecure attachments coming out and they're checking their phone and they're obsessing. Meanwhile, this guy is stable as shit. He's showing up, he's consistent, he's transparent, he states his intentions, he's showing up. But that's security. That's not activating your nervous system. So you don't want this. You want the thing that activates your nervous system. And until we heal
Right.
and understand that, we're just going to end up with the same person over and over with a different name.
Yeah. I mean, karmic cycles at their best.
Yeah, and I know last time we talked about the test because I tell my clients too that they'll be tests, but I've literally dated the same person in like five different bodies, five different backgrounds, five different names, five different environments and cities. But what you have to look at is how they make you feel. So if you feel
Yeah.
like you're insecure and you're chasing and you're looking and you are questioning your reality and you're doing all these things, then essentially it's just another pattern dressed up as something else, you know? Um, and I no longer pay attention to what men say or what they do as much as I pay attention to my body in response to them. So if my body feels calm and I feel secure and I feel okay, I'm like, okay, this is good, right? Because your
Yeah.
body will always tell you if it's activating a trauma response or if you actually feel safe in their presence, in their masculine presence. So I really just listen to myself.
Yeah. And I'm learning to do that. This, we haven't talked about this. I had another interesting revelation while on DMT.
Okay.
Okay. So this was when I was just recently, about 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Okay.
And I was sitting there and I smoked some DMT. And for some reason, I came out of it and I was panicked. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was so panicked. And I got a download like, you need somebody you can trust. But I was panic feeling, and it kind of, no, I wasn't with this girl at the time. We might have been, we were living together, but in separate rooms. It
Mhm.
wasn't like there wasn't that dynamic. But me not knowing, my response and, my feelings as it comes to, being fresh into this awakening, I didn't know that I needed somebody I could trust led me to believe that maybe that she was supposed to be, you know, somebody that I could trust. I didn't know that it was saying, run, motherfucker, go, get out of here. Because I mean, that's what it,
You were like, wires were crossed. I
yeah.
misunderstood the message.
Well,
My
I did. I
bad.
came out of it and I was like freaked out. Like, what do you mean? I even said it out loud. What do you mean I need somebody I can trust? And it was like, yeah, that's not the one. So live and learn. I know now that watch my just watch how my stomach and everything feels, just
Right.
because
You
that,
have your nervous system signs that tell you whether
yeah,
you feel safe in a woman's presence. It's exactly the
yeah.
same.
Yeah, and it was totally not a safe situation, and it ended up turning really ugly,
Yeah.
very quickly after that. And it was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, so like when men, and this is the part that the accountability piece, right, is like being responsible and accountable for choosing the same partner and over and over. And what's frustrating for me is, I'll get messages or some of my clients will tell me like, well, I've been with five women and they all did the same thing to me. They all betrayed me. They all took my money. They all lied to me. They all did these things. And I have so much empathy for that, right? Because I know how much it hurts to try and to believe in love and to keep showing up and yet meeting the same person. So it's very difficult for me to then have to say, like, have you thought about, right? And like my first question is always very like surface level because people get easily offended if they're not ready to be honest and be accountable. They get very defensive, right? So my
Right.
first thing is like, have you thought about why you keep choosing the same relationship and the same type of woman, right? And then depending on what they say, I know whether I'm even able to work with them or not. Because if they can't say, yeah, like my mom, like my childhood was fucked up, I probably didn't love, you know what I mean? If they can give me some sort of
Right.
feedback that they're aware that they made these choices,
Right.
because I mean, five relationships are not by accident. You enter all of them willingly. You make a decision to bypass your own nervous system, to not listen to your needs, to not listen to your intuition, to put other people first, and to ignore a fucking million red flags. So you made those
Yeah.
choices, just like I made those choices in all of my toxic decisions that I am accountable for, right? The first one's on
Oh yeah.
them. The rest of the red flags that I missed, like that's on me, right? So I
Yeah.
find it very hard to have to say that to people. But I also know that without this insight, there is no way that you're going to learn what you need to learn and move through it, right? So now you and me are in this stage of like uncovering all those patterns. And I feel for myself that I am, um, I think I'm ready for like a healthy relationship. But I also know I'm not ignorant to the fact that when it happens, it's going to test the theories of everything that I've learned. Because one of the things you and me talked about is when you're in that stage of healing where you're done with toxic relationships, you know what they're about, you know what you're compatible with, who you want, what your needs are, you know all of this, right? So you're just in this lonely stage of just being by yourself, taking care of your own needs, whatever. And someone comes along you haven't had the ability or the opportunity to practice those boundaries. You haven't been triggered by anyone because you've been alone. So when people say like, "Oh, I've healed and I can be in a healthy relationship," I always say that's bullshit. You don't really know that you can be until you're in one because that person's going to trigger you. They're going to say something that maybe your ex said. They're going to do something that maybe an ex did, and you don't know how you're going to react because you've been by yourself. So the final stage of that healing is to really be in a relationship with someone that understands that you're working on yourself, that can walk alongside of you, right? So they're not responsible for your feelings and your emotions and your healing. They're taking care of themselves. You're taking care of yourself. You're holding space for each other. You're having honest conversations and saying, "Hey, I feel really triggered, but it's not your fault. It's something that happened to me. And if you want to know, I'll tell you about it, but this is what I'm going through." Right? And it's just like expressing that, you know, and then you get to heal and you just get to go on this path alongside of each other, but you're two completely different individuals that are each responsible for your own healing, for your own thoughts, for your own emotions, for your own well-being. And I hate that the society view is like you complete me and like I need you to, right? It's like all that
Yeah.
bullshit. Like no, like we
Right.
are completely two full whole beings that get to walk life beside each other, and we don't complete each other. We can complement each other in the most beautiful of ways, and we can be opposites that truly complement each other, but there's no completing here. We are all complete human
Exactly.
beings.
Yeah, that's where, that is the biggest, that is exactly what my thesis is on, is that point exactly, really. Because we just don't, until we're whole ourselves, we're never going to be whole for anybody else. And we can't sacrifice any part of ourselves to be with somebody else just to please them or fit into a mold that they want, and we can't expect anybody to do the same for us. So relationships need to happen organically, they need to happen without force, and they need to happen for the right reasons, and that's not surface level attraction.
Yeah.
They need to happen because you truly relate to them on so many different levels, and that comes to self boundaries, making a list of non-negotiables that you're not, this is what I want in a partner. This is what I want, this, and this. If you don't check every single box, you're not fucking gonna make it. Sorry. I
Mhm.
mean, and holding yourself accountable to that, because once you start giving into any of those, then you're just gonna end up back and it's gonna be back the same thing over and over again. That's why it's like, not that I'm scared. I don't know if I want to even try it. I'm having fun by myself. I don't need anybody to make me happy. So, yeah, of course, it'd be nice to share, certain moments, but, if it doesn't happen, no skin off my back. I'm good.
That's right. And when you start to love yourself, you really raise the bar for how you are to be loved. So, like, the one thing that I say is, like, if you want to be with me, like, you're going to have to love me better than I love me because I will not accept any less. And I'm loving myself. Like, I'm really taking good care of myself in all the ways. And it's like, so you're going to have to show up here because the bar is not here anymore, it's up here. And then the same thing for you. They're going to have to
Yeah.
add so much to your life and not take anything away for you
Yeah.
to even
Well, and I'm
consider.
so busy too. It's like I got so much stuff going on. I don't have time to even, not that I'd even look for it. It doesn't matter. It's not something that I need in my life anymore. Where before it was a big part of my life. And if I didn't have a relationship, I just felt empty. I felt lost. I felt like that was part of life, that I needed that. And really, that's, that was the biggest flaw in my thinking, I think, my whole life.
Yeah. I think not only is there like a personal aspect of that of needing the validation and needing to be in a relationship. Your camera just zoomed in. It's so funny. Um, but there's also like this society pressure. And it's like, when you go to parties and events and you're the single one, they're like, oh, like, don't fucking feel sorry for me. Like, I'm single by choice. I am not single because there's no human in the world that wouldn't want to be with me. Like, I'm choosing to be single. And it's okay. Like, you don't need to feel sorry for me. So there's like, and I think it's even more so an issue for men. I think for men, having a relationship is like status because then it's like you're a man that someone wants,
Right.
right? And I
Oh
think that we
yeah.
also get sucked into that where it's like, well, we don't want to be like the lonely, like the single one at all the weddings and all the parties and all the events and like your friends are all coupled up and you're just always the fifth wheel, the seventh wheel, the third wheel. Um, so there's always that pressure, right, from the people around you to get into a relationship, even though you don't want one and you're happy. So it's like we have to stop doing that. We have to let single people be single if they want to be single.
Definitely. And it actually, instead of chasing relationships, you find that, you get chased more often after that because people are like, oh, well, what's wrong? Like they are almost offended that you don't want to talk to them or,
Yeah, it makes
go
you
out with
hotter, right? Because they're like, oh, they're
right. It's like
unattainable.
every time I go out, it's like I get these girls that are like, hey, and it's like,
Yeah,
I'm just really not interested at this time. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. And it's like they seem to just come back
it just
over and over and over,
activates
and
their
they're
chasing.
right. And it's like, sorry, not happening.
Yeah,
I
they're
just,
like, how dare he?
yeah, yeah, and not that that's good either, but it's a self-esteem boost,
Hmm.
which is good, and it also makes you realize, it made me realize the patterns that I was engaging in, when I was on the other side, and it was like I was chasing and doing that. You see those patterns, and it's like, wow, it's crazy how much you just realize once you step back and dissect everything that you have learned and, grew up believing was true, and then you're like, what the hell is wrong with society? I mean, really,
Yeah.
it's
Hurt
scary.
people hurt people.
Yeah,
And the way I'm raising my kids is like I'm doing all this work for my parents. My parents couldn't do this work for themselves. So all that generational
right.
stuff that was passed down to me, I'm undoing all of that. And I have no, I'm so blessed because my kids are still with me. So they get to watch me correct my mistakes. They get to watch me create different dynamics and different patterns, and they watch me make boundaries, and it gives them permission to make boundaries. And I look at the way they approach relationships, and someone said to me like, "Oh, your son's 17 because he's got his first girlfriend, and he's just head over heels." And someone's like, "Oh, well, he's a kid. What does he know about love?" And I'm like, you know what? Kids love in the purest of ways because they are not tainted yet by the betrayals and the broken hearts and the wounded people that hurt them and the toxic stuff. They are just so happy to be in love for the first time. And it's been like one of my greatest pleasures in life just to watch my kids fall in love and watch the way they love and see how differently they love and how much safety they create and how open they are and just like how me undoing some of those old patterns is making it easier for them and how they've learned from my mistakes and they're not repeating those patterns because they also know that they were loved as children and they're not looking for that validation and that missing piece. They're just
You're
approaching it
leading
from
by
a different
example. It's
right.
beautiful.
So like
Yeah,
I'm just seeing that it makes me happy to see that some of those patterns that I had and that my parents had as well is not being passed down to my kids. It makes me very happy.
it's all
Um,
about breaking those.
yeah,
I mean, if we're ever going to get anywhere in society and, it's breaking generational trauma. I mean, it really is. I mean, and that comes down to we got to do it younger. I mean, there's got to be a way to
right,
implement it and at a younger age to a
right.
larger majority of people. And that's going to take parents being able to take responsibility for how they are
Hmm.
raising their kids and what they're showing their kids. It's going to be hard, but I think it's possible. And I think it's very important because before we can break those cycles, I mean, nothing's ever going to change. It's just going to continue the way it
Yeah.
is.
Someone has to take a step. And you know what? I see a lot of hope. I see my children having very authentic friendships, and I see them choosing friends differently. And I see just there being different kinds of kids in school that I never knew when I was growing up. And I see them having more authentic relationships. And the other thing I see is like a lot of my clients, I have like the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter, or the grandfather, the father, and the son. There is some families that I literally have three generations of clients. And some of my clients have brought their kids into me, their teens or like young adults. And parents are realizing, and it's not about like talk therapy and like, what's happening in school. It's just like parents are realizing that their kids are carrying some stuff from them and from their grandparents, and they care enough to give their children the opportunity to deal with it now so that they're not dealing with it when they're 40 and they have their own kid. So I see a lot of hope having like clients and three generations within one family. It gives me a lot of hope that people are wanting to um, repair some of their wounds from their childhood
Yeah.
and the
Well, I
wounds
mean,
that they gave to their own children.
we're in the middle of a great awakening on a lot of different levels in
Yeah.
life, not relationships and just spiritually, and I see a lot of it, and it is definitely encouraging.
Hmm.
It's going to take people like us to keep pushing the word, and you know,
Yep.
a lot of times it's a very, it's difficult to be in this profession and doing what we're doing because a lot of times people think they're ready for the message, but when it comes down to it, they're not. And that's the hardest part, is you get clients that are, they're halfway in or they're,
Hmm.
almost there, but they're not ready to ask the questions, nor are they ready to look in the mirror and,
Hmm.
really look at how they're contributing to the bad things that are going on there in their life. And until they do that, I mean, you can plant a seed,
Yep.
you know,
Exactly.
seeds grow, but really I've had to try and limit myself to people that are ready to ask a question
Hmm.
because then at least I know if they are ready to admit their wrongs and ask the question of how they're gonna, rebuild their life, then it's more worth the energy exchange.
Yes, for
If you,
sure.
you know,
Yeah, we like this is a hard lesson. I think we've talked about this before for both of us. But it's like we plant the seeds, we make ourselves visible, people read our message and what we are here to share with the world. And if it resonates, then they invite you. And like I work by invitation, right? So I don't DM my clients, I don't do any of that. Like I am by invitation. So you have to so you have to invite me into your space and you have to want to do some of this deep work and be ready for it. um, and you guys just saw Jake waving at me. That's because we talk about how many DMs that we get. That's just a high and a wave. And then I was like telling him that that's what I get a lot of the times from men. And he was like, oh my God, I get the same thing from women. So now occasionally he will do that in my DMs just to be funny. And guys, it's freaking hilarious. So hi.
I have like three of them today,
Yeah.
and they're
And
from
you know what?
guys,
Yeah, but that's
you
I
know,
have so much compassion for that because sometimes people
yeah.
don't know what to say. They're testing the waters. They don't know what they're ready for. They're just, everyone has their own journey and sometimes it comes in spurts. Sometimes it's a big like it was for the two of us. It's a big moment with a big explosion and a lot of changes. Sometimes it trickles down over 10 years. So it's like I have so much respect and compassion for how each person has their own journey and what that looks like for them, right? And I'm just here, like if you want to hear what I have to say, then I'm here. If you don't, then you know, good on you.
Yeah, we've discussed it. It's setting boundaries of how long you'll engage, and it's got to come to a certain point to where, and I've done better at laying myself out there right away. Hey, I'd love to listen to you, but I have a lot going on, and
Mhm.
you're gonna have to make an appointment because I really don't have time to spend. Not that I don't want to. That's
Yes,
the
of
thing is that
course.
because that's how this started. It was just answering group posts and Facebook and, just really
Yeah.
it started organically and I enjoy helping people and I hate seeing people struggle, especially because, I've been there.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get to a point to where you have to kind of, be like that. But I mean, you can't use up all your energy on, things that aren't going to go anywhere or a lot of times it's people that aren't, they're just not ready to move forward with real change in their life,
Yep.
and that's sad, but hopefully they follow along and continue to, get the message, and then eventually maybe they'll come to that realization that they need somebody to
On
help
their
them
own,
guide them
right?
through it. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them, in the beginning, I wanted to save everyone. I wanted to help everyone. And then I realized some people really do need to hit rock bottom. Just like addicts, some people really do need to hit rock bottom. Some people really need to have the dark night of the soul, and some people don't. And it's not my choice. It's really up to them and their path. So it's like if I know where they're going and I know they're gonna hit rock bottom, it's like, well, like I went through it. A lot of other amazing people have gone through it. And if that's part of their journey, then like it's part of their journey. It's not up to me, right? It's
No,
just
I mean, that's the
accepting that
universe.
they're all gonna like some of them may need to hit rock bottom and they may come back to you or they may go see someone else or their life may be transformed in another way that you'll never see. But it's just like trusting that they have their own journey that's right for them.
Yeah. You have to, like, we had to hit rock bottom to be where we're at. It was for a greater purpose when when it gets down to it. It was so that's what I tell a lot of people that are having a difficult time that maybe aren't ready to face it. I know it sucks. I'm sorry you're going through this. I totally understand, but a lot of times in those darkest moments is when you find your purpose in life. So just keep pushing, and you're gonna find your purpose eventually.
Yeah.
It's not ever easy. What you and I
It's
have
not meant
walked
to be
through is not
easy.
easy.
It's not meant to be
It
easy.
No, it's not meant to be, because it doesn't, you don't get the experience you need to teach, or to, it's not even about teaching people, it's just about living your best life. And through that, people see that, and then
Yeah.
they go, oh wait, now that's Jake. I remember he was, he did this, that, and the other, and people that probably to this day, people are watching me on Facebook going, all right, it's about time.
Is this gonna fall apart?
Yeah, come on. And I'm sure every day they probably go on and are like, well, where's his doom and gloom post, or just
Yeah.
something like that. And it's like, you're gonna be waiting a while, because I'm done.
Good for
I'm
you.
done. I embrace who I am, and I love who I am, and I'm not ever going back to that
Yeah.
lifestyle. This is addicting to me, you know,
It's a good addiction to
being able,
have to being
yeah.
authentic.
Yeah, it has totally made all other things that I used to think were important, they're no longer,
Yeah.
so it's been a blessing for sure. I'm so grateful. And
Well, I really, really admire your honesty and your authenticity and your transparency, because you use your name, your first and your last name, on all your social media. You don't hide anything from your past. You talk about it with such openness and such clarity. And it just shows how much work you've done, how much you love and accept yourself, and just how much you're you're trying to be like your best, most authentic self. And I have so much respect for that. And I admire that in you. Like it's really rare to see.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's I am me unapologetically. I'm imperfectly perfect, and I have nothing to hide. So full
Mhm.
transparency. I've been to prison. I've been, substance abuse. I've struggled with my whole life. So it's just who I am, and I'm not gonna apologize to anybody. It is what it is. It's just I want to be able to inspire change in people that are in tough situations that normally wouldn't be able to relate to somebody. It's not surface level.
Yeah.
I'm not given these trendy mantras, or affirmations to say daily. Not that those don't help.
Yeah.
Of course they help. There's a time and a place for them. But what
And
I'm
they
trying
can't
to
just be
do is
alone. You
show,
can't just be doing wearing crystals and saying
yeah, yeah.
affirmations.
I mean, journals and all of it, it's all great as a culmination of everything
Yeah.
together. But it really takes some deep soul searching and to be able to face
Mhm.
yourself in the mirror and every part of you and be able to integrate that in your life and be like, yeah, I was a piece of shit. Yeah, I was a drug addict. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I was a thief. I did whatever, and be able to be okay with it because it doesn't matter. It's over. It doesn't define you. So it's just time to move on. And what are you going to be now?
Exactly.
That's what we need to ask ourselves is what are we going to be now? We're not going to be that. So what are we going to be?
Beautiful. And because the second part of this episode is on relationships and moving from toxic to healthy relationships, what would you say to someone what kind of advice would you give to someone that is in the position that you or me are in, and they are in the season of being in that in between spot where they're still doing that healing, they're working on themselves, um, and how can people make sure that they are ready and the best version of themselves for when and if they do meet that person?
That's a good question. Um, I can't tell you that because I'm not. Uh, the best thing I can say is just continue to be aware of your feelings, be aware of, how situations, if you meet somebody new, just stay aware of your body, what your body's telling you, what your nervous system's doing, and just try and focus on letting things happen without chasing. It's really the best advice I can give. Just not forcing anything, being present, but just being, you don't have to get into these relationships where it's, all or nothing right away. Take
Take your
time,
time. What's the rush?
slow down. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say is because as a society, it's like everybody wants to get together and move in together within, oh, this is so and so, I met him last week and we're living together and everything's
And like the
great. And then,
labels, like what are we?
right, yeah, yeah. Why does there have to be a label? I
Mhm.
mean, why can't you just be? I am me, you are you, and that's just the way it is,
Yeah.
you know?
And I see you when I see you.
Yeah, I see you when I see you. Perfect.
Right. Yeah. This is why I'm single, people, because this is my
Yeah.
attitude. I see you when I see you.
Hey,
And don't
I
text me
mean,
good
that's a good
morning.
rule. Yeah.
No, I think once you take the obligation out of it and the labels and stuff and just say like I just want to see who you are as a human to see if we're compatible as two human beings, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. So, thank you for that advice. My advice is to make a list of all the things you are looking for in a partner, right? And my have a list, and just so you guys know, my list is all characteristics. So like believes in uh someone greater than us. So like believes in some sort of God. It doesn't have to be like my God or my version of God, but that, like honesty, integrity, I have all these things. So they're all qualities in a human. They're not physical characteristics and they're not like status, money, or income based. And then you look at that list and then you go down this list and you see and you put a check mark where you have this quality and where you don't or you're lacking, this is your work. So while you're waiting for this person, this is your work, is to become the person that you would want to be with. And also, we cannot ask for someone to give us something that we can give them. That's not fair, right? So to me, if you're waiting, you make this list and then you be this person. You want love, you be love. You want someone that's kind, fucking start being kind. You want someone that's honest, you start practicing radical honesty with all your relationships. See how that goes, right? Then you're going to have to do boundaries. So it's like start being the person that you would want to be with.
Yeah. I mean, transparency is the key. It's being able to be transparent from day one. It
Yeah,
really is.
transparency and honesty are so different, and not a
Yeah.
lot of people get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if they can't sit with you knowing exactly who you are from day
Hmm.
one, then it's not even worth your time, you know,
Yeah.
because then things are going to come up over the years that, it just ends up becoming a rock in your stomach, and you carry that weight of, what you've hidden or had to, you know,
Yeah.
stuff just because of it. Yeah.
I just because you mentioned it, I want to give people a quick example of what the difference is because I think the big problem is that people don't understand. So, let's say I'm dating someone and he says, "What are you doing?" And I say, "I'm going out with a friend for lunch," right? And I'll be back at 1 o'clock. I said the truth, I didn't lie, right? But that friend is actually a male friend. So I could say, going out with my male friend, or I'm going out with a male friend that I dated a long time ago. That would be like the third level of transparency, because that is an important thing that someone that I'm dating might want to know is that I once dated this person. They may have a question, they may have a feeling about it. And me not disclosing things that I think they deserve to know about me, that's the difference between honesty because I didn't lie by answering the first question. I said I'm going out for lunch. I could even say I'm going out for lunch with my male friend. But the missing piece is that I dated this friend 5 years ago. And that's something that if someone I was dating was going out with a girl, I'd want to know if they had dated in the past. That's like an important detail. So it's giving out all the information that you think this person deserves to know without being asked because people will say like, well, you didn't ask me. Well, I didn't think I had to ask you if you had sex with someone at work today. Like, right? Like I didn't think that that's a question I had to ask, right? So they're like, well, I didn't lie. So that's the difference between honesty. Honesty, you just give information. Transparency, you give context and you give things that this person needs to know and that are true and paint a bigger picture.
It's the basis of building trust in a relationship, because once they find out that, you went out with somebody that what's going to happen after that? Then they're not going to trust you. Well,
Then
trust
there's
is hard to
questions, right?
it.
And if you just say it
Yeah,
up
there's always
front,
going to
it's
be
it's
questions,
done.
and that starts to take on attachment issues later on in the relationship. They go back, oh, well, you didn't tell me this, that, and the other when you were going to lunch, and it's the basis of a healthy, good relationship. It really
Yeah.
is.
And it's a huge difference. And the thing is like when you are transparent with someone right from the beginning, it makes them feel so loved and so respected and so valued because it shows that you care about their feelings and their experience and you're willing to make yourself uncomfortable or say something that might cause a secondary conversation, but it's like you value their trust and they're important to you. So it's just like you people can start doing that, a lot of relationships would be better. It would be so much better. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that. This was really good. Thank you. So we'll be back for a couple more episodes. I'm not sure what we're going to tackle next time, but I'm sure it's going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake.
Appreciate you.
As always, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Our famous wave.